Konnichiwa! Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Nihongo Master podcast. I'm your host Azra, bringing you Japanese cultural and language content every week. Study Saturday is our language series where we introduce useful, bite-sized grammar pointers in an easy and fun way. Today's episode is super special because it's our 100th episode. Hooray! And as a way to celebrate this joyous occasion, I've asked the other team members behind Nihongo Master to join me today, including the big boss. It's going to be a fun one because we're still going to do a Study Saturday episode, just joined by a few friends. And if you've read the title, you know that we're going to be going deep into Jikoshoukai, or self-introduction. We'll look at what a Jikoshoukai is, when it's used, Jikoshoukai etiquette, and ending off with a few Jikoshoukai examples by the team itself. What a better way to get to know the people behind the scenes. So, in a way, it's part language learning, part interview kind of episode. Okay, enough of me. Let's bring everyone else in. Joining us today is Taylor, Diana, Nikki, and Jesser. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Hello.
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 So, before anything else, let's have everyone do a quick introduction. In English first. We'll have plenty of time for the Japanese one. I'll go first. My name's Azra. Sometimes people call me Az. I'm from Singapore, living in Japan since 2018, and on an ongoing Japanese language learning journey. I'm a content creator for Nihongo Master, writing for the blog and podcast, which I also host and produce. Outside of Nihongo Master, I have my own fashion business as well as other freelance writing work. Now that's a fun fact about me that I haven't really shared much on the podcast.
Hey everybody, I'm Taylor Dondich. I am the founder of Nihongo Master and a fellow Japanese language student. Really happy to be here.
And I'm Diana McQueen. I am outreach coordinator and marketing director, and I've been with Nihongo Master since March, and it's been a blast. And I love, meeting all of the people who tune into this podcast online and helping them further their Japanese studies, because I am also a Japanese scholar, as the rest of these people are.
Hello, nice to meet you. My name is Jesser. I'm Nihongo's Master Software Engineer. I live in the Philippines. My hobbies are biking and reading manga. And my favorite manga is One Piece. Nice to meet you.
Konnichiwa. I'm Nikki. I am the social media and outreach manager at Nihongo Master, and I am from the US.
Perfect. Okay.
So for the longest time, Nihongo Master was a team of one, just myself kind of building out all the tools and everything. And we've slowly accumulated more team members along the way. So, as Diana mentioned, she's been relatively new with us, but we've had Nikki join us as well. Jesser has been writing software for us. And we've had some people come and go as the years have gone by. And I've just been really excited about the talent of these people. Azra, you've done such an amazing job with our podcast and really bringing what we do to the masses through audio form, which is awesome. I think we do a great job of digitally, trying to teach people the Japanese language, but you've really added a voice to us. And so I'm super appreciative of that.
Okay, thank you. I got lots of compliments there. I'm so happy. What are your feelings about working with Nihongo Master?
Working in Nihongo Master is great, and it's pleasure to me because I don't have any experience in Vue.js, just a little, but in Nihongo Master I've learned a lot and I've gained experience so much. It's happy to work with you and the Nihongo Master.
Perfect.
One of the things that Jesser mentioned, he mentioned like Vue.js, and we use a lot of technologies actually at Nihongo Master. And Nihongo Master has been around since 2012, and during that time, the tools have evolved all over the place. Like, I don't think the students know that everything that we've built to deliver lessons and the tools to help you accelerate your Japanese language education are all home built. It's built by us, fellow students. And so we take a look at what works and what doesn't. And all of it's custom built. So for Jesser to contribute to that is fantastic. But, the technology is all custom made, and it takes a team to kind of keep it all up and running. So it's all very exciting.
Wonderful. It's nice to know the bit of back end to that thing as well. How about Diana? How's your experience working with Nihongo Master so far?
It was really fun finding an opportunity that where I could use a lot of my different skill sets, including Japanese, but also working with people like in other cities and across the globe. Like that's really cool, and I haven't really had an opportunity to do that except for, like occasionally would have a phone meeting or something like that with another department that's in another, but this is much more intimate, and it's really cool to interface with other people who are basically jack of all trades too. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm not really like an entrepreneur, but I do have lots of different things. Like I'm an actor, and I'm also a model, and I'm also an artist, and, and also a web designer, and all these other things. So it's nice to find a team where you just kind of like dig in where you're needed, and
Right.
and you get to learn stuff too.
And you use all those tools here as well. I'm not, I'm not model material by any means, but you mentioned
I haven't yet had to model yet.
we'll find a way somehow.
We'll find
just as long as I'm not on the cover, I think we'll be okay. But
Everyone else but Taylor.
yes, absolutely.
We all have very nice headshots. That's all I know.
To your point, though, like you're a jack of all trades, and that's a good way to say it because we all wear different hats with Nihongo Master because we're a small team, and we have to market, we have to program, we have to build out content, and so we ask a lot of each other. And when Diana was looking to join our team, we don't have like best practices or like concrete marketing examples to follow or anything like that. We kind of just build it as we go, and we try and figure out what works and what doesn't. Same with like podcasts, same with our social media feeds. Nikki has been doing such a great job in growing our following there and creating content for our social media feeds. And we learn as we go, and I just having such people who can wear multiple hats and everything is absolutely a blessing. So
if you're listening and you've interacted with us on social media, that's mostly Nikki, but also me if you're on YouTube or TikTok.
Yeah, I think with Diana like leading the helm of our marketing, we've actually got a really good plan in regards to getting as much visibility out there to as many Japanese students as possible around the globe. And that's really the whole point of it, right? That's the point. Yeah. Is Nihongo Master is not worth anything if people around the world aren't using it to achieve something in their life, whether it's a new job, travel, romance, anything like that. We're proud to be a part of to help fuel that, and that's what makes this all worth doing.
Yeah, we love hearing about how Nihongo Master has helped people achieve things in their life. Like hearing from users all the time, getting that feedback is really important.
Yeah, no, I get like people find my private Instagram as well, and you're like, I listen to your podcast. That's amazing. I'm like, whoa, how did you know?
Also, you're also a fashion model and also an entrepreneur, and so you do all kinds of stuff. That's cool.
Why is everyone a model, but not me? Jesser, are you a model?
Jesser has a really nice photo. Yeah, like where is that from?
Look at Jesser. He's a model. We can tell.
Mm-hmm.
I just edit my picture in Photoshop.
Wow. I need to get better at Photoshop then.
So we've all just introduced ourselves, and also we introduced Nihongo Master. And in Japanese, introduction is Jikoshoukai. So what do you guys think is important in an introduction? Well, obviously the name. I think that's the most important.
Yeah, it would be good to kind of know who's talking, right? But it's weird. Like it differs across cultures, like what's appropriate, what's not, and what I learned in Japan is obviously there's different variations of formality, right? There's people that that you go to school with, or people who are friends, people you've just met at a pub or a bar, and then there's people in a formal business setting, and each one has its own unique style of kind of a greeting. But starting off with hi or harimaste, Yo.
Yo.
But yeah, so in different areas of Japan and how you've met these people, it's gonna play on that. But obviously, some form of greeting. Where you're from, I think it might be important, especially if you are in a business setting, like what company you belong to, potentially what you do for that company. And one thing that I found was kind of like a promise that your future relationship will be positive, right? In some way, like if it's a formal setting of saying, hey, I'm looking forward to doing business with you or something along those lines, or a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
I think those are important elements.
I think in Japan, when introducing yourself, there's more of a format. A lot of times you mention where you work. And if you're introducing yourself in a career setting or a job interview, a lot of times you'll mention your future plans when it comes to work. In the US, we don't really have that. We kind of just go with the flow when we're introducing ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. Like especially in the more formal settings, the whole "dozo yoroshiku onegaishimasu," like the "please be nice to me," or like hope for the future is definitely a major pull.
Yeah. If you say absolutely yoroshiku onegaishimasu is it's basically just saying, hey, this is our first time, but that implies hopefully our relationship will continue.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with Taylor.
Like what I would notice is if I enter like a new company or a new group setting, they will go like, right, everybody, let's do introductions. And like in English, you never do that. You're like, oh, my name's Azra, blah, blah, blah. But in Japanese, you have to kind of signal that this is Jikoshoukai time,
Yes. So many formalities, rules, different levels of organization, officialness.
That's interesting because I've only really been to Japan for pleasure, right? Only for trips and for vacations and things like that. So I have never really been in a much more formalized business environment to do a greeting. So is there anything, Azra, from your perspective that really stands out where you were, and this might be more interesting, where you might have been surprised that was included?
Usually there's a standard format of your name, where you're from, what you're working as. And this in a more casual form, they usually talk about, oh, your hobbies. I have how many kids or my family. And I was like, whoa, I thought that was a personal thing. Sometimes some people are a bit more personal about their family and kids. Some people are but then in a Jikoshoukai, in like a group friendly setting, you can say that. So I was like quite a bit confused. So can I say that or not? That kind of thing. So sometimes there's like that rule that you don't know whether it's okay to say or not. So mine's always just short. It's like my name, where I'm from, my company, yoroshiku.
There's been two situations that I've had to, most of them have been formal. I've been a ryugakusei, which is a foreign exchange student, or like in a student group visiting schools. So that was like 3 times. And then I also applied to be a Delta airline stewardess, and I got really far in that process. And one of the final in-person interviews was this big day-long thing, and we had to do an official. It was a Japanese language airline stewardess, so I was going to be doing the Japan Asia legs, and we had Japanese fluency was one of the requirements, and it was when I wasn't rusty, and we had to stand up in front of the whole group and Jikoshoukai to everyone very formally, and keep it to like 4 items because there were like 20 other people. But as the school trips were great because it was very like wherever we went there was a schedule, and like the only time I got out of the formality of the schedule was when I was just kind of on my own and I had met friends, and then we could say whatever the heck we wanted. Like, I know that there was probably a hierarchy, but they were like, you're from America, we don't care. So it finally got to relax at some point.
There was one time where I did do a bit of modeling last year, and then I had to do like a casting. So I went there and they're all Japanese, and I was like, whoa, okay. And they're like, oh, can you introduce yourself? Can you also say what's your favorite Japanese food? And I was like, what? Okay. So that was like they can request for you to add something into your Jikoshoukai, basically.
Yes. Yes, that definitely. Like especially the school trips, they were like, well, we want to know what you like about Nara, or, oh, you're visiting Sendai. What have you learned about Sendai?
Do you guys think there's a difference between introducing yourself in English and in Japanese?
In English, hello follows a lot in regards to the initial greeting, but in Japanese, you have the different variations based on the formality and, more importantly, how well do you know this person? And so those play together, and it's just nuances like that. And it's as a foreigner, I found if you mess up a little bit, there is some leeway in that. They're more forgiving of that because, hey, you're just trying, and that's pretty impressive. But to respect that and to acknowledge that there are different levels, and to kind of understand each of the levels, I think is pretty important.
Yeah. What do you think, Diana? Is there any difference?
Yeah, I was just thinking about how they have very rigid ways of doing formality. Like there's different words, there's different verb endings, and ours is a little more nebulous. And I feel like it's the same in a way. Like if you have societal power or like power in a meeting, like you would be more casual than I guess other people who are trying to show respect to you, which makes sense. But then all of my experience in the industries I've been in America, it's like they want to make it casual because it takes out all of the anxiety or all of that, like, oh, it's okay, you don't have to worry about it, we're all friends here, it cuts through all that. They hate that in Japan. I don't know if it's hate, but it's like I feel like that's a huge cultural disconnect where you can't cut out, if you cut out the formality, you're being rude, or you're off the map. Like we don't know how to act. And yeah, it's very different.
And sorry, I'm gonna go again.
Go
but physical language I think also plays a part, right? In English or American kind of society, you can kind of see people shaking hands and even coming in to shake hands, or even touching a shoulder or an arm while shaking hands, or not shaking hands, or just kind of giving a high five or whatever. Physicality plays a part there, and it does also in Japanese culture, right? Everybody, as a Japanese student, kind of learns kind of an honorific bow, and when you're bowing, and if you're not in like martial arts or whatever, you kind of look down, right? Like you're paying your respect to this person that you're greeting. But I know that also shaking hands tends to also be acceptable in Japanese business etiquette. Azra, living there, what have you kind of seen in regards to formal settings? More handshakes, more bows, combination?
More bows. I would have to like put my hands in front of me, and just like have like a bit of distance from them because they prefer that. But so I wouldn't go out with a handshake unless they start to do it, just out of respect. But yeah, usually
that would make me play an awkward dance, right? I'm watching your hands very closely to see the cue.
Usually after the whole like, oh, hajimemashite, it's usually like the business card, the meishi first, and then
Yes.
you look at it for like 10 seconds, you go even though it's nothing interesting, you're like and then you look at them, and then they start their jikoshoukai. So that's the very formal setting, and it's still very like more practiced now as well. Yeah.
Business cards. Business cards are huge in Japan. A lot of people have them, and a lot of people give them out when they introduce themselves to someone else. It's really interesting. It's not just a career thing, people will just hand them out just so you have a way to contact them, and just so you know who they are if you ever need them in the future.
So If and for those listening at home, please check the Nihongo Master blog at blog.nihongomaster.com for a very informative blog post by Azra about bowing degrees. It's very specific, and they're very forgiving. But if you can practice bowing to a very specific degrees, you're all good. You'll surprise everyone.
Did you notice that nice plug by our marketing director?
She slid that in like she just went through the whole list. That's the one.
That was very good.
If you enjoy this podcast, you might also enjoy it.
That was very interesting because you also mentioned business cards, and like I said, I've never really had to exchange business cards, but that also is a big part of business etiquette there, right? And I like how you're like politely looking at it, even if it's not really exciting.
And don't put it in your back pocket. That's what I learned that in high school. They're like, do not like look at it and hold it until the other person goes away, and then maybe you can put it. Because Americans just like pop it in their wallet and then put it in their back, and that's like,
you don't want to be fumbling. You want to look prepared.
Yes, and also that's like a huge insult, apparently.
Yeah, it's like if you put it in your back pocket, it's like you're basically sitting on them because it's like your butt.
Or you're pulling it out of your butt, and you're like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Inside the coat, maybe? Yeah.
I've always just put it right in front of me on the desk until the whole meeting is over, and then everyone keeps it away. So you see like your business cards just lying out, and everyone just stared at it, and it makes me self-conscious because my business card's not that good, but I have to always have it with me. So, but you're like, what are you looking at? There's nothing on it. Just don't look at it.
I've had business cards like every year of my professional life, and I've never used them in America. Like they all go in the recycle bin after I leave a job. And I feel like in Japan, I'd be using every single one. So
I was prepared. I actually have Nihongo Master business cards made.
Nice.
And I don't know if we can see this.
Those are very nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this was my favorite part is on the back.
It has a Jikoshoukai on it.
This is nice to meet you. Yeah, so we'll prepare business cards for everybody. We want Azra to have some cards to hang out in formal business settings. But I hope I hope that this episode lasts into eternity. But right now we know that it's October in 2021, and we're still kind of dealing with COVID and everything. And we just mentioned handshakes. We also mentioned exchanging business cards. Has that changed at all that you see in Japan, Azra?
I think because their culture is originally like just without much physical contact that it doesn't matter. So I think they do, if a foreigner does like give a handshake, they go, I'm sorry. But then it's more understanding because of COVID reasons. So that's the only difference I see now. Yeah.
I actually had a question about bowing amongst friends. Like, is bowing just like if you're meeting a bunch of friends out at a coffee shop, does no one bow? Do people do like the head bob? Is there like a half bow?
No, you head butt.
Yeah. That's a really close friend. You just knock. No.
It depends on how familiar you are with that person. If it's like your best, really good friends, you actually can go for a hug. You can also just go, hi, which is so weird because like this person so well and you go, bye, and you're like, okay. But you can tell when they're not close when they just do the nod. So you can tell they're like, they probably went out once or twice in their whole friendship. Right. Yeah.
My senpai in college, I think I confused her a bunch of times because I would be like, wave, bow, and she was very very like, she wasn't like formal with me, but she was very proper, and so she was like, I want to have fun, but also I don't know what you're doing. Like she tried to like match me, and I like always kept her on her toes because I was like, I don't care.
But if you're going out with like colleagues, even if you speak like informal language, at the end of the whole drinking session or whatever, you have the whole like you bow like almost 90 degrees.
Nice.
To kind of thank them for their meal or for the time that they spent with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if any of our listeners are familiar with maybe Japanese people visiting their hometown, and you've had to go through the greeting and everything, how does that work? Has there been a little bit of confusion? Was there some form of expectation? Because we all try to respect and honor the cultures that we visit, right? Ideally, we do, and so knowing that the Japanese culture is much more formalized and that there's a process that you should be following. And then for them to see just the wacky world of Americans and how we do things.
The grab bag.
Yes. There might be grabbing involved. Like, how do they interpret that? How, what is their interpretation of that? And is it too forward?
Terror?
Because, you hear stories like in France, they also have a whole different style to greetings, to how they communicate to each other. It's I visited France a couple times, and it's much it can come off abrasive, whereas Japanese culture and greetings are much more formalized and filled with niceties. And so I would only assume, it's my assumption, that for Japanese natives to travel to, say, Paris or something like that as a nice destination, to be a little, surprised at just how different it is. Just like how we're talking about how different it is for their greetings to us. I'm sure there's a nice, interesting perspective from their end.
What I do notice, especially with when I speak to my Japanese friends and they go, "Oh, I get weird responses when I introduce myself as I am called blah blah blah." Because if you translate tomoshimasu, it's I am called this, or you can call me this. So when they Google Translate it or whatever into English, it sounds not as colloquial as "oh, my name is" or "I'm blah blah blah." So I do get that kind of responses, people react weird when I say I'm called blah blah.
That's how I greet people normally on the streets. Hello, I am called Taylor. What are you called?
What do people call you?
Sometimes Superman, sometimes Azra.
You mean to my face?
Yeah. Behind my back, I go by
I
go by many names.
That's right. My reputation precedes me.
Yeah, so we did talk about how it's so formal and more formal than in English, especially in for Jikoshoukai in Japanese, like moshimasu. That's how you would introduce yourself in a formal setting, except not in watashi no namae wa, because that's from what I heard when I went to classes here, it's more basic. So if you go to a business setting, you have to say tomoshimasu.
And then there's keigo, which is I guess tomoshimasu is a keigo ending, which is the formal language that it's like learning. I don't know. It's like learning another word for all the words you already know.
and that's why there are specialized training classes in business etiquette for Japanese, utilization of business style Japanese language in business settings, because there is a lot of intricacy to it that uses more formalized structure that high school or beginner college level Japanese language students just don't recognize. And so there are books out there, and maybe we can even come up with a few blog posts and some lessons for our students on, hey, if you're going to do business in Japan, here's some lessons to help you out.
We actually have 2 episodes on basic keigo. So season 6 episode 6 and season 6 episode 9. So if you want to know a bit of basic keigo, you can head over that one.
There you go.
We talked a bit about some of the Jikoshoukai etiquette, like business cards, bowing, not handshake kind of thing. One thing I did notice whenever my Japanese friends introduce themselves is they won't talk too much about themselves when it comes to work. They will go, "Oh, I'm a salaryman," or I'm an engineer. And that's it. We will talk a bit more about our roles in the company, but for them, they don't talk as much. They don't like talking about themselves too much, I think. Do you guys agree?
Well, I think this is where I feel, because I love talking about myself.
Same. I mean, I feel self-conscious after a while, but also.
But I mean, it's interesting, because it's also you don't ask questions about it. You just accept it, right? You just say, "Oh, I'm the CTO for so and so, or I am the founder for so and so. And you don't ask questions about it because you assume that those details will come out later. But in American business, that is your first opportunity to show that you're like a thought leader or an expert in that field. So you kind of like just go into it like right away. You say, "Oh, I'm the sales director for so and so, and we do this in our sales process, and we've expanded our annual revenue by these numbers." And that's typical to be in like in American business scenarios. I hear it all the time, and it's like, wow, you're your number one hype man. Like you're talking up a big game. But in Japanese culture, you just kind of give your title, the company. That's it. You just assume that this person already deserves the respect. You don't need to profess everything that you know. It's pretty interesting.
And I'm wondering how far does that inside circle, outside circle thing go for like when you talk down about yourself and your inside circle to people in the outside, and like does that happen in business too? Because aren't you like, how do you, I guess, sell your company to someone, but still like lower yourself in front of them? I would like to know more about that.
I think I've never pitched my business in Japanese before, but but from what I can hear, or from what my Japanese friends tell me, is it's just the humble form that if they want to say something, they just use the humble form of keigo. Yeah,
That clears everything up.
so
And I think yeah. I mean, ego is frowned upon. I think, and there's a difference between humility and self-deprecation, right? So if someone was to come to you and say, "Oh, your company is the best at so and so," when you come back with humility, you say, "We just I think we do the best that we can." Versus, "Oh no, that's not right." You accept it, but without praising yourself. And it's a nuance. Like business language is a nuance, and I assume, and again, I haven't had too much experience in Japan, that it's even more nuanced there. It's like a little game of who's got more humility.
Yes. Who can be more humble?
it is a game.
I was like thinking of like them prompting foreigners to do Jikoshoukai. They're always prompting them to like, well, tell us all these things about you. And so I feel like foreigner introductions are much more egocentric, only because they want to satisfy the curiosity of the people who they're talking to. Because, like if it's a group of students, they're all interested where you came from and like, what do you like about Japan? And so they want to know your perspective. And I feel like that's a really specific situation, like from Japanese people to other Japanese people wouldn't happen.
Yeah, definitely. I get a lot of questions.
Yes,
A lot of
right?
questions. I'll keep it to like 2 sentences and they go, "Oh, they asked like more and like 5 different questions." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't want to talk about me, but sure, I'll go on and on about it."
Yeah, and my background is so random and confused. Like, so I'll try to like, narrow it down to like one job title, or I do this, but then they're like, well, what do you mean by that? And I'm like, oh God. Okay. Like, how long do you have? It's like, so it's like,
Yeah.
what part of my job history do you want here in this conversation? Who am I today? Because I don't want to overload them with information. And doing it in Japanese is even harder. Yeah. So
No.
yeah.
I'll just like introduce myself as a writer, drop that, and that's it.
That's
I wouldn't
good.
even go like where I'm from. I'll just like, I'm a writer, full stop. What do you write? I'm like, oh, don't get me started.
That's right. That's good.
I was gonna ask Jesse, what would you include in your like introduction?
We'll just say our name and our job and where do we live and our hobbies.
Oh, okay, hobbies as well. Is that common in the Philippines to talk about your hobbies during introduction?
Just it's to widen your words.
Ah, okay. That's a good one.
For example, in our class and our college, we will say my name and where do we live.
Interesting.
Okay, now let's move on to the juicy part, the actual Jikoshoukai. We've done the introductions in English, let's have it in Japanese. And let's not forget to apply the tips we brought up before. Who wants to go first?
皆さん、こんにちは。はじめまして。日本語マスターのドンリチテイラーと申します。よろしくお願いします。
はじめまして。私の名前はダイアナ・マックウィンです。日本語マスターの会社の中でマーケティングディレクターです。ダイアナと呼んでください。よろしくお願いします。
はじめまして、ニキです。アメリカ人です。よろしくお願いします。
こんにちは。はじめまして。私はジェシアリと申します。日本語マスターのソフトウェアエンジニアです。フィリピンに住んでいます。私の趣味は自転車に乗って漫画を読むことです。私の一番好きな漫画はワンピースです。よろしくお願いします。
Okay, let's not forget about my Jikoshoukai. Although I bet our listeners are well aware of who I am already by now. はじめまして。私の名前はアズラです。時々、人々は私をアズと呼びます。シンガポール出身で、2018年から日本に住んでいます。私は日本語マスターの会社の中でコンテンツクリエイターです。ブログのために書いています。そして私はポッドキャストのホストです。日本語マスター以外では自分のファッションビジネスやフリーランスの作家をしています。よろしくお願いします。Wow, thank you guys so much for joining me today for this special 100th episode. That was so much fun discussing about Jikoshoukai and how important it is to have a solid one.
Thanks for listening.
No, I had a great time. This was awesome, Ezra, getting us all together. Thank you so much. Hopefully we had a good conversation. For our listeners and to our listeners out there, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us rant and ramble. Appreciate it, and looking forward to maybe hearing from any of you in regards to feedback and what you want to hear and see out of Nihongo Master.
Follow us on TikTok.
Stop it with the plugs, Diana.
Sorry.
Diana will be doing the trends.
We want to hear from more people on TikTok. We're having a lot of fun over there.
I will just say thank you for listening, and nice to meet you.
Arigato, Azra-san.
So by now, you'd know the importance and significance of a strong Jikoshoukai. Whether it's in a casual or formal context, it's always good to have one prepared beforehand and ready whenever asked. Oh, and now you know the amazing people behind Nihongo Master. Killed two birds with one stone there. If you enjoyed this special team interview episode, let us know on our social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Oh, and what do you think of this combined Study Saturday episode, where it's not just me discussing the grammar and more of a conversation? Let us know about that too. And if you're keen on picking up some more Japanese for yourself, pop onto our official website, nihongomaster.com, to learn more about our interactive online learning system. At Nihongo Master, we offer efficient Japanese lessons that are quick, easy, and fun for Japanese language learners of all levels, beginners to advanced. Our smart tools will assist you in areas where you need a bit of a push and congratulate you on the ones you aced. Get a subscription today and get a head start on your Nihongo journey with Nihongo Master. Thank you so much for listening to this special episode. Join me next time, where we'll be looking at another interesting part of the Japanese culture and language. Mata ne!